Yeah, it kind of feels like we go around in circles here. I guess that's the biggest point is that people have a reason to be, to question their institutions. I mean, I think that's the biggest point, and the election system is absolutely something that people are completely sane to question whether or not their vote counts and whether or not the vote tally is accurate.
But then if there is so much skepticism, then why do we even bother to vote? If it's been such a rampant problem for such a long time.
A lot of people don't.
I
Yeah,
know, but that's what I'm
that's
saying. It's
true.
like, why do we even continue to do it if it's
Well,
something where we've already been shown
well,
that what the
Well,
people
because like
want? So we've seen already that people do not, or that we have these studies that have shown that what the people want is not what ends up coming to fruition, right? Legislation wise. And when it comes, and I mean, obviously, we're supposed to be voting these people in, right? And if our system of electing these people is so corrupt, and we know that it's so corrupt, we know the problems with, money in politics and all this stuff, and we've gotten to the point where even before this election, we knew that people were going to question everything, and people are even questioning not even just this, certain race, but also like local races. Like when you look at I'm sure if you look at Shahid Buttar and Nancy Pelosi's race, I'm sure that there's a lot of fudgery going around there too. So it's a matter of like, so what? Why do we keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result?
I mean, why do we get involved with the Tulsi campaign? I mean, what was the point of
Answer
that?
my question first, though.
well,
I mean, I think you hit it on the nail on the head there, Daisy. I mean, first of all, you have to distinguish between the presidential races where you have the gerrymandering, you have the electoral college, you have all these factors in there, versus in that kind of unique system we have of electing a president versus local elections. So, like, if I go and vote, I consider my vote for down ticket as important as the top of the ticket. So like if I vote for somebody on the city council, that's important as well. And so like you can have cases like where you have a socialist elected in the Seattle City Council, right? So I mean, and if you don't vote, then that's like the only avenue, one of the only avenues we have for direct so-called participation in our democracy in our system. So it seems like
But look how you even described that. You said so-called.
yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
mean
saying?
it's
Like there's that cynicism.
hey, I'm pretty cynical, and I'm pretty much,
I know.
I'm
Listen, I struggle with that. I struggle with that, especially like this race. I really think, and like everything that's going on, I'm really thinking about it as like, why do we keep doing this if we know that it's so rampant with fraud and that it's all just like this big show, to keep people entertained and stuff? Like, why do I keep participating in this?
so so my
I'm just like honestly, saying what I've struggled
so
with this time.
yeah, so my perspective, there are things like saying down ballot tickets, and also I was really hoping for frank choice voting, and I'm again horrified at my fellow Massachusetts folks for not supporting that. But I think there's also the belief that for me, I think that if it's not even close, then you're gonna win. Like that situation with Nixon and Kennedy. My understanding is Nixon kind of didn't pursue that because it was he wasn't going to win the battle. He didn't have overwhelming numbers other places, sort of like that. And I don't know. It becomes a matter of like if you win in a big red or blue wave, then the battles don't even happen. You don't even have to fight those little skirmishes. And so I kind of hope that I'll just be part of this huge wave. So I vote hoping that it's not even close, and then the people actually do get what they want. Um,
yeah, or in my
but
case, I voted for Green Party, thinking that at least it's another. If Green Party gets like
yeah,
if they get a few percent, then people might start taking notice of them. I mean, end of story.
that's
They
it.
got
Yeah,
like 0.5% right in Massachusetts, but
yeah.
even so, I figured that was my way of making a statement. I figured that's the least I can do is fill out the little stupid form and mail it in. I mean, it didn't take me longer than 5 minutes to do it.
Yeah, and then you get a right to complain, you know.
Then you get a right to complain. But I mean, that's not political participation. I mean, voting every 4 years, or even voting every time, is really not. That's the bare minimum, and not even really the bare minimum. It's, you know, you have to do more than that. It's
Right.
how you live your life. It's a lot of different things.
Right. So that's the question. It's like, I mean, I'm not telling people to not vote, but it's definitely something that I have thought about, that I don't know if I want to vote going forward, because I feel that, I mean, even beforehand, I knew that really my vote was going to be kind of futile, right? Because I voted for Howie Hawkins, and I mean, Howie had such a poor
Right.
showing. I did it for, and it's almost like it's operational, like I'm just, okay, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, so I guess I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
I
it.
mean,
And
in theory,
it's like, that's not what voting is supposed to be for, like
yeah,
I'm supposed to actually vote because I feel that it's supposed to be my voice, but
yeah,
I don't feel that my voice is really heard.
well, you're supposed to have political parties that represent your interests, right? And people align with these political parties because they figure they're going to further their whatever their, you know, whether it's their personal gain or whether it's their vision for a better society or whatever. They're going to align with a certain political party and vote for that political party. And that political party will get into power and they will enact those policies, right? That's the naive explanation of why people get involved with political parties and why people vote. The real story, of course, is that these political parties have become corrupted. They are become power, self-sustaining power centers that align with different groups that don't necessarily represent popular will in any level, right?
mm-hmm.
So witness Republican and the Democratic parties seem to have lost touch with you know, the interests of people, and they're more aligned with corporate interests, with you know, the elites. And this gets into the whole populism versus elites dichotomy. But yeah, I mean, people have lost confidence in that idea that you can vote for a party and that they'll get empowered and enact a policy. Now let's contrast that with a socialist, a strong socialist system like the Soviet system, where basically they said there's no need for parties because parties are just artificial, corrupt constructions, that you really just need a party that's representing the workers, and you just have to make sure that party stays in power. And every time you vote, there's like one list of candidates. You vote for those to show your support for that system. But basically, it's become a bureaucratic elite, but it's supposedly operating in the interests of workers, and we're furthering that. And to some extent, it seems like we're kind of going towards that, because we're kind of going towards an unelected elite, which is making decisions for us rather than having the parties actually representing us. So I just thought that was interesting that 100 years ago, we had a revolution in Russia where they actually implemented kind of thought that the party system didn't really work, and that we had to have this other system. So that's kind of Lenin's approach.
Well,
What do you guys think of that?
Well, my understanding too is that also, our founding fathers didn't believe, and they thought we would have problems if we did form political parties.
Right. They were against political parties.
They absolutely wanted citizens just to rotate through and take turns, and that was it. And that would avoid the corrupting influence of corporations really wielding the power through the politicians.
Yeah, but the problem is that we have given up that power, because what we've done is that we've contracted it out essentially. And that's why the majority of people that are actually like in city council positions or in positions that actually affect you and I, it's people who they have the money, or they are retired, or you know what I'm saying? Like they don't have to necessarily work. The people, the plebs, don't have the opportunity to be in charge of anything and to have their voices heard, because we're too busy working, and we don't have that. And we're too busy struggling, trying to survive, trying to make sure that we have enough food to eat, or that we have shelter or whatever, and to be worried about what the fuck, X, Y, and Z is doing over there, and to worry about what these people that are in charge, what they're actually doing.
and it's even worse. It's even getting worse, right? Because to keep yourself educated on what's actually happening in the government is getting even harder with the obvious censorship and the obvious propaganda coming out of the mainstream media directly from the government. It's horrific. You know, to address your original point, Steve. Though, you know, in a socialist situation, the government representatives don't necessarily represent the workers, though, right? They become kind of this elite administrative class that
Right, but
aren't. It's not the same as. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, they represent the ideology, so they're very ideological.
Right.
And I'm, you know, I think Marx was onto something, but I also think he was, um, you know, he believed in this kind of inevitability of progress, you know, from slavery to feudalism to capitalism to socialism to communism, and that was inevitable. And I don't necessarily agree with that. That there's some magical forces that exist, you know, like in physics, like gravity or something. I think uh, I don't, you know, they touted this as being the scientific approach to, you know, human societal development. I don't agree with that, but I think Marx was onto something that, um, and that's, I mean, in the Soviet system, he had corruption, obviously, you know, with Brezhnev with his, you know, his collection of foreign cars and
Right.
you know, his hunting junkets and all this stuff. I mean, it was corrupt. It wasn't necessarily corrupt in the same level that it's corrupt in the West, you know, where people are
Yeah.
trillionaires essentially or billionaires, whatever. Um, but I mean, you could make the argument that the focus of the system was on providing for people on a popular level, so that in the Soviet system, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that this is a reality that there was much less disparity of wealth. I mean, and obviously the level of wealth was much lower, but
Mm,
basically there was more equity in
mm,
terms of you know, you were guaranteed a job, you were guaranteed a place to live. It might not be great. You might be living in an apartment with two other families, but you did have a shelter, you know, a roof over your head, and that was guaranteed. So there was that level. And people who are nostalgic for that Soviet period talk about, you know, the level of security and the absence of stress because they didn't have to worry about any of these things that you have to worry about in Western society. So there was um, I would say the elites in that system, I mean, by and large, were very ideological and were committed to that system, even though there was corruption as well.
sure.
Whereas in the West, I see like, you know, the elites are committed to some kind of like control and, you know, becoming more powerful and not necessarily any better. Put it that way.
I see them at this point. You know, our leadership simply wants to continue to pull the wool over our eyes and continue to be able to get away with just promising us stuff, but not delivering for the people, but delivering for their, you know, corporate owners, sponsors, whatever you want to call it.